it doesn't feel like a fair fight. It feels like a very, very cruel thing to do to someone that is a legitimate legend, and it makes me feel uncomfortable to think that that's the way it's going to go down. Like I hope, desperately hope that Nate at least comes through it all right. I think it's going to be uncomfortable to watch, and I think it's going to leave the UFC in a very, very bad light. And I just hope Nate comes through it all right because I think he's got good opportunities outside the UFC. It's just a shame that they're going to do this assassination attempt on him before he leaves.
Hey sisters, welcome back to GK. This is Greg, and in this video we're gonna go over how to get that absolutely snatched brow arch that's gonna get the boys into your DMs. Unfortunately, this is not what today's video is gonna be about at all. We're gonna be talking about Nate Diaz. I'm sorry to disappoint. When you don't know if it's gunshots or fireworks. So yeah, big announcement this week, Nate Diaz versus Khamzat Chimaev. Dana White, the UFC, Hunter Campbell, whoever finally got Nate to leave the company on their terms. As Dana once famously said himself,
he wants me to kick him off the show. Vote him off. Beat him off.
So I think we all understand why this fight is being made and why it's being made now that it's Nate Diaz's last fight on his contract and he clearly does not want to resign. Basically what they're trying to do is lower his stock so when Nate Diaz goes elsewhere he can't get as much money and it's not as damaging to the UFC's reputation if he loses. So if he goes to box Jake Paul, for instance, which is clearly in his plans, if Jake Paul beats him somehow, which Dana White no longer sees as an impossibility after what happened with Tyron Woodley, they can just say, well, look what happened to him in the UFC, he's way past his prime. So basically, not only does the UFC want to see Nate lose, they want to see him lose in such a way where his stock plummets completely, where he can't just walk away and be like, well, I was losing, but then I lit this guy up in the last round and I threw up the middle fingers and walked out of the arena, kind of like he did with Leon Edwards. He lost the fight, but all anybody remembers from that fight is him lighting up Leon Edwards in the last round and then pointing at him and laughing, and everybody's just like, oh, classic Nate. There's the Nate we all know and love. Nate Diaz has this innate ability to lose constantly and consistently, but look better in losing than most people do in winning. You never see Nate Diaz truly look bad even when he's getting his ass handed to him objectively. Like, he just has an ability to look cool no matter what, and that's what makes him such a pay-per-view draw. I mean, how many Diaz interview compilations are out there on YouTube with millions of views just because people are drawn to him? He's magnetic, people want to hear what he has to say, he's unintentionally hilarious, and you just never know what's going to happen when he's in the octagon or outside of it for that matter. So in order to take that coolness away from him, or at the very least reduce it greatly, the UFC is purposely not matching him up with a guy like Vicente Luque, like he's been asking for, because they know that fight would be a banger. They would stand up for all 3 or 5 rounds. They would go back and forth. Diaz would probably start bleeding. He would probably slap him. He would probably point at him. He would throw up the, the double biceps and the double middle fingers, and then in the post-fight interview say some cool shit, whether he wins or loses, and then ride off on his proverbial horse into the proverbial sunset. So in order to avoid that type of result, the UFC is matching him up with a guy that they perceive to be an absolute destroyer, a killer, a mauler, just a guy that they think will absolutely splatter Nate Diaz, that will make him look so bad in that octagon that once he's out of the company, he's not even going to be interesting anymore. It won't be interesting to set him up with anybody else because he looked so bad in his last fight. But the thing is, I believe that the UFC is making a huge mistake, and here's why. Dana White is a smart guy, and I'm sure he realizes that if Khamzat simply lays on top of Nate Diaz for 5 rounds and just wrestle fucks him, so to speak, that's not going to prove anything. That's still going to make Nate Diaz look good because he's going to get up, he's going to get on the mic, he's going to go into the post-fight press conference, and he's going to tell everyone that Khamzat fought like a bitch and the fans are going to take his side. So what I think Dana wants to happen, and I don't believe that he's above incentivizing Khamzat with an under-the-table bonus to get that type of result, is for Khamzat to knock Nate Diaz out or to ground and pound him into a TKO. And I believe that's exactly what Khamzat is going to try to do. And that is going to be a major blunder on his part, because Khamzat is only what they say he is when it comes to his wrestling. His stand-up, as far as I'm concerned, is nothing special, as the Gilbert Burns fight proved. He's sloppy, he comes at you aggressively with his chin out, his defense is This might sound crazy to you guys, but as far as I'm concerned, Nate Diaz is a much better boxer than Khamzat is. Period. Khamzat is stronger, he probably has better cardio at this point, although even that is debatable. That depends on what type of shape Nate Diaz shows up in. But boxing skills-wise, Nate Diaz is way better. And if Khamzat fights him like he fought Gilbert Burns, where if he doesn't knock him out in the first round, he starts to get frustrated and abandons his wrestling completely just to prove a point, he's going to get his ears boxed off. And that's going to be the worst thing ever for the UFC. And honestly, I really hope it happens. Could you imagine what that would do? First of all, the UFC would fail at delegitimizing Nate Diaz, therefore they would lose a huge star in Nate Diaz. That's number one. Number two, they would lose a huge potential star in Khamzat, because they're building him up to be the next Anderson Silva, John Jones type of character. I mean, this would be a two birds, one stone type of situation. I would love nothing more than to see Nate Diaz pull one last one out of his bag of tricks. I know he's got one last one in him. He's got that one last Nate Diaz, Cowboy Cerrone, Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor one type of performance in him. He really has it in him. And I really, 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 really hope he gets it done, because I love Nate Diaz. I like Khamzat Chimaev. But above all else, I love fuckery. And that's going to be fuckery overload for months and months and months. And if you watching, if you love fuckery the way I love fuckery, then you should be rooting for Nate Diaz alongside me. And I'll see you then.